The stars were quiet that night. The human colony on the edge of known space slept under the cold shine of distant suns. Ships came and went every day, bringing food, metals, and travelers. But tonight, a ship unlike any other arrived. It was not human. It was massive, black, and sharp like the blade of a knife. It carried no banners, no signal of peace. It came from the Empire. Everyone in the colony knew the Empire. They were ancient, powerful, and cruel. Humans were still new to the stars, but even they had heard the stories. The Empire ruled hundreds of worlds. Entire species bowed to them. But humans did not. Not yet. That was why the colony waited in silence as the alien ship descended. Fear spread like smoke in the streets. From the ship came a single message. A gift has been delivered, accept it. No one understood. A gift? From the Empire? Humans did not trade with them. Humans did not even trust them. But the message was clear, and the colony had no choice. The dock opened and the gift was brought out. It was not a box. It was not treasure, nor weapons, nor technology. It was a person. A woman. She stepped forward in chains of silver that shimmered under the docking lights. Her dress was thin, woven with strange patterns that looked more like symbols than cloth. Her hair was long and dark, falling across her shoulders. And her eyes glowed faintly, like two small moons. The crowd gasped. Was she human? Was she alien? She looked human, too human. But there was something wrong, something strange, something not of this world. The Empire guards who escorted her said nothing. They placed her in front of the colony's military leader, Commander Rylan. He was a tall man with a scar down his cheek, a soldier who had fought in the frontier wars. He looked at the woman, then at the guards. "What is this?" he demanded. The guards only answered with the same words. "A gift. Accept it." And then, as quickly as they came, they returned to their ship. Within minutes, the alien craft lifted into the night sky and disappeared among the stars. The colony was left in silence. The crowd did not move. All eyes were on the chained woman standing before Commander Rylan. He looked at her carefully. Her skin was pale, her body trembling as if she had been forced to walk a long distance. She kept her head down, not daring to look up at the man who now stood before her. "A gift," Rylan muttered. "To me?" The soldiers around him were tense. One whispered, "Sir, she was probably meant for an alien lord. A message gone wrong. We should send her back before the Empire thinks we stole her." Another said, "Or maybe she is a trap. A spy. A weapon." The commander raised his hand for silence. His eyes never left the girl. She did not speak. She did not even lift her head. Only her chains rattled softly when the wind moved. For a long moment, no one knew what to do. Should they return her? Should they lock her away? Or should they accept the gift, whatever it meant? The commander made his choice. "Unchain her," he ordered. The soldiers hesitated. "But sir, now." They obeyed. The chains fell with a cold clatter onto the floor. The woman slowly lifted her head for the first time. Her glowing eyes met his. For a moment, Rylan felt a strange chill run down his spine. There was something inside those eyes. Power, sadness, hunger. He could not name it, but he felt it. The crowd stepped back. The woman said nothing. Rylan took off his own cloak and placed it around her shoulders. "You are not a gift," he said. "Not to me. Not to anyone." The soldiers looked at him with shock. The people whispered among themselves. But the commander stood firm. He turned to his men. "Bring her to my quarters. She will be treated as a guest." The soldiers were uneasy, but none dared to disobey. Together they led the woman away, her steps soft against the steel floor. The crowd slowly dispersed, still whispering about what they had seen. That night, in the safety of his quarters, Rylan offered her food and water. She ate quietly, without a word. He asked her name. She did not answer. He asked where she came, from still silence. Only her glowing eyes watched him, calm yet sharp, like she was studying him as much as he studied her. When he left her to rest, he knew one thing for certain: this was no simple mistake. The Empire did not give gifts. They gave traps. They gave chains. But why would they send her? Why to him? As he stood by the window, watching the stars outside, he could not shake the feeling that this gift would change everything. The colony, the Empire, even himself. And in the darkness of her room, the woman finally whispered her first words, so soft that no one could hear. He was not the one they meant me for. But maybe he is the one I was meant to find. The wrong man, Commander. Rylan did not sleep that night. The woman from the Empire stayed in the guest room, silent and still. But her presence was like a shadow in his mind. Who was she? Why was she sent here? And why did the Empire call her a gift? The next morning, his officers gathered in the command hall. Their faces were grim. The arrival of the alien ship had shaken the colony. The Empire never made mistakes. If they had left someone behind, it was for a reason. One officer slammed his hand on the table. "We must return her, sir. Before the Empire accuses us of theft, they will crush us for this." Another officer shook his head. "Return her? She walked here in chains. If we send her back, we hand her back to slavery. Is that who we are? Is that what humans do?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Commander Rylan. He sat at the head of the table, his scar catching the morning light. He did not speak right away. His thoughts were heavy. Finally, he said, "The Empire called her a gift, but they sent her to the wrong man." Confusion filled the hall. "Wrong man?" one officer asked. Rylan's voice was calm but firm. "She was meant for one of their warlords, not for me. They made a mistake." He looked around at his men. "But I will not correct it." Gasps echoed across the room. Some looked horrified. Others, strangely, looked relieved. One soldier whispered, "If you keep her, sir, the Empire will demand her back." "They will not. Forgive." Rylan's eyes hardened. "Then let them demand. I do not return people like cargo. She stays here." The decision was made, but it was not the end. It was the beginning. Later that day, Rylan visited her again. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. The cloak he had given her was wrapped tightly around her shoulders. She looked fragile, but her glowing eyes betrayed something more. He stepped closer. "Do you have a name?" No answer. "Do you understand me?" Still nothing. Rylan sighed. He placed a tray of food beside her: bread, water, and fruit. Simple, but real food. She glanced at it, then at him. Slowly, carefully, she picked up the bread and began to eat. "You are safe here," he said. "No one will hurt you." For a moment, he thought she might respond. Her lips parted, but then she lowered her head and ate in silence. Rylan left, her alone, but the unease in his heart only grew stronger. She was not an ordinary woman. He could feel it in the air around her, in the way the lights flickered when she walked past, in the way soldiers avoided her gaze. By the third day, rumors spread across the colony. The people whispered in markets and corridors, "She is cursed. She is a spy. She is the Empire's weapon." Fear spread quickly. Some even demanded that she be cast out or killed. But Commander Rylan stood firm. He placed guards outside his quarters, not to keep her in, but to keep angry colonists out. "She is under my protection," he announced. "Harm her, and you answer to me." The people obeyed, but the whispers never stopped. That night, one of his closest friends, Captain Darren, confronted him. "Rylan, you are risking everything. The colony, our families, our lives. For her, you don't even know what she is." Rylan looked out at the stars beyond the window. "I know what she is not. She is not a thing. She is not a gift. And I will not send her back to chains." Darren clenched his fists. "The Empire will come for her, and when they do, we cannot win." Rylan turned to him, his voice steady. "Then we will stand. And if we must fall, we will fall as humans, not as slaves. Back in her room, the woman sat in silence. But inside, her thoughts raced. She had been trained, created, and sent to enslave a master of the empire. Her power was designed to bend minds, to make proud warriors kneel. She was supposed to whisper into the thoughts of kings and warlords until they obeyed. But here, with this human commander, her power had failed. She had tried on the first night, when he unchained her. She had reached into his mind, but it was like touching a storm, wild, untamed, impossible to control. She had never failed before, but against him, her gift was useless. That terrified her, and yet it also made her curious. Why were humans different? Why was this man unbreakable? The next morning, a signal came from the stars. A sharp, cold voice spoke through the colony's comms. This is the Empire. The gift was sent in error. Return her at once. Failure to comply will bring destruction. The message repeated 3 times, then ended. The officers looked to Commander Rylan. Fear filled the room. This was no small threat. This was war. Rylan stood tall. His jaw was tight, but his voice was clear. We will not return her. The officers froze. She came in chains, Rylan said. But she will not leave in chains. Not while I live. The soldiers exchanged nervous glances. The colony trembled with fear. The Empire's shadow was now above them. And in the quiet of her room, the woman finally allowed herself a small, secret smile. For the first time in her life, someone had refused the Empire. For the first time, someone had chosen her, not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a person. She whispered softly, almost to herself, the wrong man, or maybe the right one. The silent stranger. The days passed slowly after the Empire's demand. The colony lived in fear, waiting for enemy ships to appear in the sky. Soldiers sharpened their weapons. Civilians whispered about evacuation. Everyone watched the stars, but the true storm was not outside. It was inside the colony. It was inside the woman they now called the stranger. She never spoke. She ate only what was given, moved only when guided, and spent most of her time sitting near the window of Rylan's quarters, staring out into the night sky as if searching for something far away. The soldiers feared her. They called her cursed. Some said her eyes glowed brighter when the room was dark. Others swore they heard whispers in their dreams, voices that sounded like her but vanished when they woke. Commander Rylan did not believe in curses, but even he began to notice strange things. One night, the door to the armory opened by itself. The locks were untouched, the guards swore they never moved, but the heavy steel door stood wide open as if inviting anyone inside. The next day, the lights in the command hall flickered on and off for hours. Engineers checked the systems, but they found nothing wrong. And always, in every case, someone had seen her nearby, standing quietly, watching. Rylan confronted her. He entered her room, his boots heavy on the metal floor. She turned her head slowly, her glowing eyes reflecting the light of the stars. These things that are happening, he said, his voice steady. It is you, isn't it? She said nothing. Why? He pressed. Are you trying to scare us? Are you showing me your power? Still silence. Her face was calm, almost too calm. Rylan leaned closer. If you want me to fear you, you will be disappointed. I have seen war. I have faced death. Fear does not break me. For the first time, her lips moved. She did not speak, but she smiled. A slow, unreadable smile. It unsettled him more than words ever could. The soldiers grew restless. One night, 3 of them came to Rylan. Their faces were pale, their voices angry. Sir, she is dangerous. She walks like a ghost. She brings bad omens. If we keep her here, the Empire will not need to destroy us. She will do it herself. Rylan stood firm. She is under my protection. No one touches her. But the fear in the men's eyes did not fade. Stranger things followed. A soldier woke screaming in the barracks, saying he had dreamed of fire and chains. When asked what he saw, he described her face. A child in the colony claimed she heard singing in the night, an alien song coming from the commander's quarters. No one else heard it, but the story spread. And once, when an officer shouted at her in anger, the officer suddenly collapsed. His body shook as if gripped by invisible hands. He survived, but he swore he felt something inside his mind pulling at his thoughts. The whispers grew louder. She is not human. She is not safe. She must be removed. But Rylan was not moved by fear. He watched her closely, and the more he saw, the more certain he became. Yes, she was dangerous. Yes, she was different. But she was also trapped. Not by chains this time, but by silence. She was hiding something she could not say. One evening, he sat across from her. The room was dim, lit only by the stars outside. "You are not cursed," he said quietly. "You are not a gift either. You are something the Empire fears. That is why they sent you." Her eyes flickered, almost like a candle flame. For a heartbeat, he thought she might answer. But then she lowered her head and returned to her silence. Rylan sighed. "If you will not speak, then I will wait. But know this, you are not alone. Here. Not anymore." That night the alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the colony. Ships had been detected at the edge of the system. Everyone rushed to the command hall. Soldiers prepared for battle. But the scanners revealed something. Strange, the ships did not attack. They waited, circling like wolves around prey. A message came again from the Empire. "Return what is ours. This is your final warning." The officers turned to Rylan, fear burning in their eyes. "Sir, we cannot fight them. We must give her back one life in exchange for all of us. That is fair." Rylan's jaw tightened. He looked toward the quarters where she sat in silence. "Fair?" he said coldly. "Is slavery ever fair? Is surrender ever fair?" No one answered. In her room, the stranger watched the soldiers running through the halls. She could hear the alarm, the voices, the panic. She closed her eyes. Inside, she felt her power stir. The Empire had made her to break minds, to crush wills. She had been designed as a weapon. But here, with these humans, she was powerless. Her gift did not work on them. And yet, when she looked at Commander Rylan, when she saw him defy the Empire without fear, she felt something she had never felt before. Not power. Not control, choice. For the first time in her life, she wondered, what if I chose not to be their weapon? What if I chose to stand with him? The night ended with tension across the colony. The Empire's ships still waited in the dark, silent but deadly. The people trembled, the officers whispered, and in the center of it all, the silent stranger sat by her window, her glowing eyes watching the stars. She said nothing, but deep inside, she was no longer silent. She was waiting for the moment to decide who she truly was. The Empire's demand. The Empire's ships circled the colony like predators. They did not fire, but their presence was a silent threat. Every hour their message repeated across the comms. "Return what is ours. This is your final warning." Fear spread through the colony. Families packed what little they owned. Soldiers checked their weapons again and again. The hum of panic filled every street. But Commander Rylan stood firm. In the command hall, his officers pleaded with him. "Sir, they will destroy us if we refuse. We are only one colony. We cannot fight an empire." Rylan's voice was cold but steady. "If we return her, we tell the Empire we are weak. We tell them we can be broken. And once they know that, they will never stop. Today, it is her. Tomorrow, it will be all of us." The room fell silent. The officers knew he was right. But fear still gnawed at them. Meanwhile, the stranger sat quietly in her room. She could hear the colony's panic even from behind closed doors. Footsteps rushed past. Voices trembled in the halls. But she remained still, staring at the stars beyond the glass. She knew those ships. She knew the warlords who commanded them. She had been created for them. Once she would have obeyed without question. Once she would have walked back into their chains without hesitation. But something was different now. Something inside her had changed since the moment the commander wrapped his cloak around her shoulders. For the first time she wondered, was she theirs? Or could she be her own? That night, Captain Darren came to Rylan. His face was hard. His voice, heavy. "Old friend," he said, "the men are breaking. They believe you are leading them to death. If the Empire attacks, we will all be ashes." Rylan looked him in the eye. "Would you send her back? Would you return her to chains?" Darren hesitated. "If it saves the colony, yes. One life for many. That is duty." Rylan shook his head. "That is surrender, and surrender spreads like a plague. If we start now, we will never stop." Darren's jaw tightened. "Then we are doomed." "Maybe," Rylan said, "but at least we will be doomed as free people." The next morning, the Empire sent a new message. This time, it was not a cold demand. It was a voice, a deep, commanding voice that echoed across every speaker in the colony. "Humans, you have taken what belongs to us. She is not yours. She was created for us. You will return her or you will be destroyed. You have 3 days." The message ended. The colony shivered in silence. 3 days. That was all the time they had. When Rylan returned to his quarters, he found her standing by the window. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. "You heard them," he said. "They want you back." She turned to him slowly. For a moment, it looked as though she might speak. But then she lowered her gaze. "You are not theirs," Rylan said firmly. "Not anymore. You are free here." Her lips parted slightly. She whispered so soft he almost missed it. "Free?" It was the first word she had spoken to him. Rylan stepped closer. "Yes, free. Do you understand?" She looked into his eyes, and for the first time, he saw something in her expression, confusion, maybe even hope. But before she could say more, the lights flickered again and the alarm sounded. In the command hall, the officers reported a new problem. "Sir, the Empire ships are blocking our supply routes. No food, no fuel. They are choking us without firing a single shot." Rylan clenched his fists. "They want us desperate. They want us to break." "Maybe we already are," one officer muttered. But Rylan ignored him. He looked at the star map on the screen, the red shapes of the Empire ships surrounding them like a noose. He knew they could not break out. He knew they could not win a fight. But still he refused to surrender. That night he returned to her again. She was sitting on the bed, her hands folded in her lap. "Why are they so desperate to take you back?" he asked. "What are you to them?" She raised her eyes slowly. In the dim light they burned like fire. "I am their weapon," she whispered. "Made to break minds. Made to control." Rylan froze. At last, the truth. "Then why can't you control me?" he asked. She shook her head. "Humans. Different. You cannot be broken." A chill passed through him. Humans were new to the galaxy, small and untested. Yet here was proof. The Empire's greatest weapon did not work on them. He leaned closer. "Then they fear us. That is why they want you back. To hide their failure." She did not answer, but her silence was enough. On the second day, the Empire sent another message. "Humans, your time is ending. Tomorrow we take what is ours by force. Prepare to burn." The colony was gripped by terror. Some begged Rylan to surrender her. Some prepared to flee. But Rylan stood in the command hall, his voice echoing across the room. "They want us to fear them. They want us to kneel. But we are human. We will not kneel. Not today. Not ever." The soldiers stared at him. Some looked afraid, others inspired. Slowly, voices rose in support. Not all, but enough. In her room, the stranger heard his speech through the comms. She felt her chest tighten. No one had ever spoken like that before. No one had ever refused the Empire so openly, and in that moment she made her choice. She would not return. She would not obey. When the Empire came, she would stand with him. Her glowing eyes burned brighter as she whispered to herself, "They will come tomorrow, but they will not find the same gift they sent. They will find something else." The truth revealed. The final day began under a heavy sky. The Empire's ships still circled the colony like vultures waiting for a corpse. Their message was clear: surrender her, or burn. Commander Rylan walked the halls in silence. Everywhere he went, he saw fear. Families clutched their children. Soldiers tightened their armor, knowing they could not stand against an empire. Yet, no one fled. They waited for his decision, but his decision was already made. That evening, he returned to her room. She was sitting as always, her glowing eyes fixed on the stars beyond the window. "They will come tomorrow," he said. "If you have secrets, now is the time to share them." For a long moment, she was silent. Then, slowly, she turned to face him. "I was created," she whispered. Rylan frowned. "Created?" "Yes," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I was not born. I was built. The Empire made me in their hidden labs. I am flesh, but also more. They designed me to enslave minds, to bend wills, to make kings kneel and soldiers obey." Her words were cold, sharp as blades. Rylan felt the weight of them settle in his chest. "So you are their weapon?" She nodded. "Yes. I was trained for one purpose: to be given as a gift to warlords, to crawl into their thoughts until they became puppets. Entire fleets would obey them without knowing it was me pulling the strings." Her eyes glowed brighter. "I was not the first. Others were made before me, but I was the strongest. The perfect design." Rylan's jaw tightened. "And yet, when you tried with me, it failed." She lowered her gaze. "Yes, I reached into your mind the night you freed me. But I found something different, wild, untouchable. Humans cannot be broken." The truth hit him like a strike of lightning. The Empire's greatest weapon was useless against humanity. "That is why they want you back," he said. "Not because they care for you, but because they cannot let others learn their secret. If they know their weapon does not work on us, their empire will crack." She lifted her eyes again. "Yes, they fear you. More than you fear them." Rylan stood in silence, staring at her. The weight of her words pressed heavy on his chest. Humanity was still small, still weak compared to the vast empire. But here was proof of something greater. Proof that humans were different. Proof that they could not be controlled. Finally he spoke. "Then tomorrow, when they come, we will not return you. We will show them what humans are." Her expression softened. "You would fight for me? Even knowing I was made to be their weapon?" Rylan stepped closer. "You are not their weapon anymore. You are free, and if the Empire fears that, then let them fear." For the first time she looked at him not with silence, not with mystery, but with something almost human. Hope. As night fell, the colony prepared for the battle they knew they could not win. Soldiers lined the walls with what little weapons they had. Civilians took shelter underground. Engineers rigged the outer defenses, though everyone knew they would not last long. Still, there was no surrender. Rylan stood before his people, his voice carrying through the comms. "The Empire believes. They own the stars. They believe they own us, but we are human. We were born free. We will not kneel, not now, not ever." His words lit a fire in the hearts of his people. Fear still lingered, but courage grew beside it. They knew the odds, but they also knew their commander would not bend. In her room, the woman sat alone. For years she had been told she was property, a tool, a gift. She had believed it. She had lived it. But here, on this small human colony, she had been unchained. She had been given food, clothing, and respect. And now, she was being fought for. Not as a weapon, but as a person. She placed her hand against the glass, watching the Empire's ships glow red in the distance. A quiet thought rose inside her. Perhaps I was never meant to serve them. Perhaps I was meant to find him. Late into the night she went to Rylan. He was alone in the command hall, studying maps of the battle that was to come. "You cannot win against them," she said softly. He looked up, tired but determined. "Then we will lose standing, not kneeling." She shook her head. "No, you can win with me." Rylan frowned. "Your power does not work on humans. What can you do?" Her eyes glowed brighter, burning like two small suns. "It does not work on you, but it works on them. My voice can shatter their armies. My mind can break their fleets. Let me fight with you." Ryland stared at her. The very weapon the Empire had built to enslave was now offering to destroy them. "It will cost you," he warned. "It already has," she whispered. "But if I must choose, I choose to be free. I choose to stand with you." Dawn approached. The Empire's ships drew closer, their shadows falling across the colony. The people held their breath, waiting for the storm. In the command hall, Commander Rylan and the stranger stood side by side. One a soldier, the other a weapon who no longer wished to be one. Tomorrow, the Empire would come. And tomorrow, the galaxy would learn that humans were not so easily broken. The sky above the colony burned red as the Empire's fleet descended. Their ships were vast, black and sharp-edged, blotting out the stars. To the people below, it looked like the end of the world. The loudspeakers of the Empire roared one final time, "Return what is ours, or be destroyed." Commander Rylan stood in the command hall, his face calm, though his heart was heavy. Around him, his officers trembled. The soldiers gripped their rifles as if they were the last barrier between life and death. He pressed the comms and spoke to the entire colony. "They come for us now. They come to take what they believe they own. But remember this. We are human. We are not theirs. We will not kneel. We will fight even if this is our last day." A cheer rose, weak at first, then stronger. Fear remained, but it stood side by side with courage. Beside him stood the stranger, no longer silent, no longer a chained gift. Her glowing eyes burned like fire. "They will not expect me to resist," she whispered. "They will believe I still belong to them. That is our advantage." Rylan turned to her. "Are you ready for this?" She nodded slowly. "I was made to be their weapon. Today, I choose to be yours." The first attack came without warning. The sky split open as beams of energy struck the colony's shields. The ground shook, walls cracked, and civilians screamed from below. "Shields holding, barely," an officer shouted. "Return fire," Rylan commanded. The colony's cannons lit the sky with blasts of plasma, but their weapons were small compared to the Empire's war machines. The enemy shields shimmered but did not break. "We won't last long," Captain Darren warned. Rylan's eyes hardened. "Then we must make it count." The stranger stepped forward. Her voice was soft but carried across the room like a current. "Open a channel," she said. The officers looked at Rylan, unsure. He gave a single nod. The channel opened. Her voice poured into the comms, soft, melodic, and terrifying. The Empire soldiers who listened felt their minds twist. In their ships, pilots clutched their heads. Officers trembled at their stations. Song of control moved through the fleet like poison. One by one, smaller ships turned against their own. Gunfire lit the void as confusion spread. Rylan watched in shock. "It works." The stranger's eyes blazed. "On them, yes. Always on them. But not on you." The Empire's flagship broke formation. A warlord appeared on the comms, his face cruel and furious. "Traitor," he roared at her. "You were made to serve us. You were made to kneel." She stared at him with cold fire. "I was made to serve no one. Not anymore." The warlord raised his hand. "Then you will burn with them." His ship fired, a beam of energy tearing through the colony's shield. The ground split, explosions thundered, screams filled the air. Shields failing. "Power cells rupturing!" Rylan grabbed the comms. "All units, hold your ground, fight for every inch." The battle raged on. The colony's defenses were crumbling, But the stranger's power tore through the enemy ranks. Ships turned against each other, some crashing into one another in chaos. Still, the Empire's strength was vast. Sweat ran down her face as she pushed harder. Her voice trembled with effort, but her will did not break. Rylan stepped closer to steady her. "Don't push too far, you'll destroy yourself," she shook her head. "Better to burn free than live as chains." A sudden explosion rocked the command hall. Panels fell, sparks rained down, soldiers screamed as fire swept across the floor. "Sir, the shields are gone. We cannot hold much longer." Rylan gritted his teeth. This was it. The end. But then, the stranger's eyes blazed brighter than ever before. "I can end this," she whispered. "How?" Rylan asked. She lifted her hands, trembling. "I can reach the flagship, the warlord himself. If I take him, the fleet will collapse." "But it could kill you," Rylan said. Her voice was calm. "I was made to die in chains. Better to die, free." She closed her eyes. Her body shook as her voice rose into a terrible song. The sound was not heard with ears, but with minds. Across the void, the warlord froze. His soldiers screamed as their wills broke under her force. The flagship shook as its crew turned on each other. The warlord roared in rage. "You cannot break me." Her voice rose higher, sharper, more powerful. "Then I will not break you. I will erase you." The warlord's scream echoed through the comms before silence swallowed him. The flagship erupted in fire. The other ships faltered, leaderless and broken. Some fled into the void. Others drifted powerless, their crews destroyed by her song. The colony was scarred, broken, and burning, but still standing. In the command hall, silence fell. Soldiers stared at the stranger with awe and fear. She fell to her knees, her strength nearly gone. Rylan rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed. "You saved us," he said quietly. Her eyes flickered open. "No, we saved each other." Outside, the last of the Empire's ships fled into the stars. The battle was over. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would not forgive. They would return, with greater force. But for now, humanity had won. For now, the galaxy had learned that humans could not be broken. And beside Commander Rylan, the stranger, once a weapon, once a gift, was now something more. She was their ally, their choice, their turning point. She belongs here. The battle was over, but the colony lay scarred. Smoke curled from shattered walls, the shields were nothing but broken sparks, and the air was heavy with the smell of fire. Families crawled out from the underground shelters, blinking at the ruined streets. Soldiers limped through the wreckage, carrying the wounded and counting the dead. They had survived. Against the Empire itself, they had survived. At the center of it all stood Commander Rylan, his face blackened with soot, his armor dented from falling debris. Beside him, the stranger leaned weakly on his arm. Her glowing eyes were dim now, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. The people looked at her with a mix of fear and awe. They had seen what she had done. Her voice had broken ships, shattered minds, and destroyed the Empire's warlord. Some whispered that she was an angel. Others called her a demon. But none could deny one truth. Without her, they would all be dead. In the command hall, the survivors gathered. Maps flickered on broken screens. Officers spoke with strained voices, and medics moved quickly among the wounded. Captain Darren slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot stay here. The Empire will return with a fleet 10 times larger. We must evacuate before it's too late." Murmurs filled the room. Fear was creeping back in. Rylan shook his head. "No, we cannot run forever. If we leave now, we show them they can push us wherever they wish. We stand here. This colony is our home." Darren's eyes narrowed. "And her? Will you keep her here, Commander? Even after what she has done?" All eyes turned to the stranger. She sat quietly in the corner, wrapped in the same cloak Rylan had given her on the first night. Her face was pale, her body weak, but her eyes glowed faintly. "She is the reason we are still alive," Rylan said firmly. "She does not belong to the Empire anymore." She belongs here. The officers whispered among themselves, uncertain. To them, she was both savior and danger. Later that night, Rylan found her outside, sitting among the ruins. She was staring at the stars again, her expression unreadable. "You saved us," he said softly. She shook her head. "I destroyed them." "There is a difference." Rylan crouched beside her. "You destroyed those who wanted to enslave you. That is not the same as them controlling you." Her eyes flickered toward him. "And if I lose control? If one day I break more than just their minds?" Rylan's voice was steady. "Then I will be here, to remind you that you are not their weapon anymore." She studied him for a long time, then whispered, "You speak as if I have a choice." "You do," he said firmly. "Here you do." Days passed. The colony rebuilt slowly. Families cleared the rubble. Soldiers repaired the defenses. Everyone worked, but their eyes still lifted often to the stars, afraid of what might return. The stranger helped where she could. She carried supplies, healed wounds with her strange knowledge, and walked among the people. Many still feared her, but some began to greet her with cautious respect. A child once ran up to her and offered a flower. She stared at it, confused, then slowly took it into her hand. For the first time she smiled, just a little. It was the first true smile she had ever given. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rylan stood with her at the colony wall. The stars were bright, sharp, and endless. "You know they will come back," she said. "Yes," Rylan answered. "And when they do, we will fight again." She turned to him. "The Empire will not stop until they take me back. I was their creation, their failure. They cannot allow me to remain free." Rylan's jaw tightened. "Then they will have to take this colony first. And they will find we do not give back what is ours." Her glowing eyes softened. "Ours?" she whispered, as if testing the word. "Yes," Rylan said. "Ours. You belong here now." For a moment, the silence stretched between them, deep and full. She looked at him, and in that look was something more than gratitude, something human. But far above, hidden beyond the edge of the system, new ships stirred. The Empire had not vanished. Scouts watched from the shadows, sending word back to their masters. The warlord who had fallen was not the only one. There were others, stronger, crueler. And when they learned that their perfect weapon had turned against them, they would not rest until she was returned or destroyed. Back on the colony, life went on. Children laughed again in the streets. Soldiers trained harder, their pride stronger than their fear. And the stranger, once a gift, once a weapon, walked among them not as property but as a person. She still struggled with silence, still carried the weight of what she had been made to do. But when the people looked at her now, they no longer saw only danger. They saw hope. And when she stood beside Commander Rylan, cloak around her shoulders, eyes glowing like stars, she knew the truth at last. She did not belong to the Empire. She belonged here.